If your makeup is looking cakey, this is why. Even if you're following like all the TikTok tutorials and sort of trend-driven stuff like that, where they're trying a lot of new products, these are my favorite tips and tricks that I learned just from being an everyday makeup wearer, life liver. To prevent your makeup from being cakey, I rarely hear these things talked about, but I think they are such a fundamental aspect of makeup. So I think you're going to find this video really helpful if you're a beginner, if you're a pro, if you wear a lot of makeup, a little makeup. These tips I think will really be great implemented into your routine. So first and foremost, let's just talk about what cakey makeup is to begin with. Cakey makeup is when you're wearing too much product, too much powder, too heavy of product. Your oils start to break through your skin, the makeup just warms up on your skin, and things will slide around and sort of bunch up in areas of your face that move a lot, which is why it's usually sort of around the T-zone area, under your eyes. It's like we're gonna be human and have expressions. Even if the makeup looks good at first, once we add that movement into it, if it's not performing, you need to make some changes to help the makeup be more flexible with your skin, essentially. So we're gonna get into that a little bit deeper. I'm so excited to help you with this though. It's actually, this idea came from doing one of my personalized makeup picks consults. If you're not aware, I am doing personalized makeup picks. It's a really exciting opportunity if you wanna gain confidence in your makeup routine, you're just struggling to find shades or products or just formulas for you. I can help you out. The link will be in the description below. There is still spots open, limited availability, but the first 5 people to sign up are getting personalized makeup videos from me, so it's gonna be a really exciting one. Let's go ahead and get into today's video. So one of the biggest culprits for cakey makeup might be that your skin isn't prepped, hydrated, or moisturized enough. You're not using the right primer for your skin type, or if you're just not using any kind of product to help the makeup that you're putting on top just have a nice base to lay onto. On top of just doing a good skincare routine, if you're curious about my favorite skincare products, I did just do a recent skincare video. So I want to talk about primers and more makeup specific products that I really recommend if you're struggling with cakey makeup. First one, I absolutely love the RMS Re-Evolve Radiance Locking Primer. This is a really hydrating, juicy, skincare-esque type of primer. Doesn't really have that silicone feel. It's more of a lightweight, hydrating, slightly tacky primer. I'm not a huge fan of tacky primers. They may work for you, but I just don't find that they do well with textured skin. This is one that I feel like always helps texture, helps makeup lay really smoothly. It's more hydrating, so it's not too heavy. So depending on your skin type, I think this would be a great one. It's a little twist up. It is refillable. I do also have a 20% off a discount code with them if you're interested in trying that one. That one, yeah, I would say would be great for all skin types, but I do have some other options here. If you're looking for something more moisturizing, if you have more dry skin and you feel like your makeup is still looking cakey, I think that the Bobbi Brown base little pop products are really great. I have 2 here. First is the Vitamin Enriched Face Base. This is essentially like a rich moisturizer that has a nice smoothing action. Also like skincare based in here. This is quite citrusy smelling, just in case you're sensitive to that. But this one is very smoothing. It is a priming moisturizer. So it just goes well with so many different foundations and skin types. And this is gonna give you that nice smooth base for your makeup to lay on top of nicely. This is the sort of smaller size one. It's very rich too, so you don't need a lot of it. Also, to complement that, they have their enriched eye base, which is sort of like the eye version of the face base. So if you're having problems with your concealer creasing and getting cakey as well, this is a great one. It's pretty moisturizing, so you do only need the tiniest bit of this. It's gonna make everything look nice and smooth. Since the under eyes don't really produce oil, this would be good for any skin type. And then just this one in general, like I mentioned, more normal to dry skin. I think you'd enjoy this one. These little guys are definitely a little bit more pricey. Nordstrom is having 15% off of all of their beauty on their site, including these, which I don't see Bobbi Brown do a lot of sales. So it would be just a great time to grab them during the sale as well. Additionally, for the under eyes, this is for creasing, for cakiness, for your concealer to look better under your eyes. The Pacifica Dreamlit Glow Under Eye Brightener. This is sort of like a sheer brightener. It's quite interesting, but again, it's just a hydrating layer that you can put on, and I'm actually going to be wearing this one today. It has a little doe foot applicator, so I usually just apply this under the eyes. It has a little bit of a glow to it, but it's nothing that's going to accentuate texture. And it's not really a correcting product either. It is just generally a hydrating, skincare-esque brightening treatment, and I just like to pat this in, and this is one that you do want to let dry before you go in with makeup. What's cool about this though is it's not exclusive to just the under eyes, right? Anywhere you crease a little bit more, I'm gonna do some on the smile lines, anywhere you get a little bit more cakey, this would be a great product to just add in those areas too. For me, the cakiness is always like this part of my face, you know, lower chin area. While that's setting, I do have another base recommendation for prepping the skin. The Chantecaille Sheer Glow Rose Face Tint. I love this product. It is so pretty. It's essentially a really light moisturizer with a little bit of a pinkish glow and tint to it, but it's not nearly as like glowy as say like the Charlotte Tilbury Glow product, the e.l.f. Glow product. This is one that I can use all over, which I really like to recommend because it doesn't add weight or cakiness. It is very, very lightweight. So I'm going to be applying this one today. I do also have a bronze version of this for my fair skin. I do not like that because it just turns me orange, but this is so pretty. It has such a beautiful natural rose scent to it, and this product is also included in that Nordstrom Beauty 15% off sale, which is another great item to pick up because it's a little bit more luxury. It's so pretty though. I've really never tried a product like this. You should be able to see on camera, like it's definitely glowy, like it gives you that shine. So I would say normal combo to drier skin types, or if you're more oily, just do this on the high points of the face. I personally just really like it all over. Really soothing and just great for sensitive skin too. Next, one of the easiest ways to reduce the cakiness of your makeup is overall just to use less makeup, but sometimes that's a little bit tough because we still need the coverage that we're looking for. So a really good step to add into your makeup routine would be color correcting products depending on what you need to color correct. It may seem counterintuitive to be adding products to use less product, but we're going to be doing thin layers of these things so we can use less foundation. Overall, it's going to reduce just like the amount of foundation and other sort of pigment rich products that we're using that tend to be the most cakey. So first and foremost, this is such a great e.l.f. color corrector. This is the green one. They do have a peach one, a blue one, a yellow one, I believe. They're $4, so like they're just so great. And I really do enjoy the formula. It's really thin, so I like to do a thin layer of this under foundation, and that's what I will be doing today. Though I do need a new one of these. It is getting very low. So for me, I'm gonna use the green because I definitely am just trying to reduce my redness. Whatever main thing you're trying to cover up with your foundation essentially is the color that you're going to want to use. So for me, that's redness. The opposite is green. I'm going to be using a sponge for my base, which I really recommend for makeup cakiness in general because it absorbs extra product. You're naturally going to use less product. Also, fingers are a really great tool as well, which I will go into in a little bit. When used in this kind of application, since these aren't very pigmented, it ends up being very sheer. It literally doesn't feel like anything. I wouldn't use a very strong creamy color corrector all over my face like this, which is why I like to recommend the green version of this because you are going to be putting it on a large area of your face, usually for redness. But moving on, for other color correcting reasons, under eye circles would be a pretty universal problem. I really love the Pixie Brightening Concentrate. This is a little creamy pot. I don't find that it creases up under my eyes, which happens with a lot of correctors for me. The shade is also like the perfect non-orange kind of peach. It works really great for fair skin. So for the under eyes, I really love to implement the use of my fingers. It just gets into the like nooks and crannies and just all the little areas that can be hard to get with a brush or a sponge. For foundations, this is a very crucial element to prevent your makeup from getting cakey. Some foundations are inherently more prone to cakiness depending on the thickness of the formula. If you're using a cream foundation, a wax-based foundation, those really emollient moisturizing formulas, just because they have moisture in there, they're gonna move around more, which if you have dry skin, that could balance out in a good way. But say you have more normal combo skin and you're using a really rich foundation, things are gonna move around. Like that's my problem if I use a really moisturizing formula. My favorites are ones that are very thin and water-based. So this first pick, you probably already know if you watch my channel, the About Face foundation, this always looks so natural on my skin. This in thin layers is absolutely beautiful. This is my go-to everyday foundation. It has more of a medium light buildable coverage. I will explain how I go about building this up to prevent cakiness, but I did also want to mention another option, the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Perfect Glow Flawless Foundation. This is hyped up and I feel like for a reason. It performs really well on the skin. This, unfortunately, the fragrance irritates me a little bit, so if you're not sensitive to fragrance, you might like this option. If you are fragrance sensitive, I like the About Face one because it is fragrance free, and I use 1.5 in this. It's a little bit dark for me, but that's a really pretty formula that I feel like never gets cakey because it is so thin. It just like melts with your skin. But let me show you how I use my About Face formulas. I have F1 neutral and I mix in a little bit of the F2 olive. So the key with foundation would be to work in thin layers. So instead of like applying a bunch of product at first thinking like that's the right amount of product, I would start with a little bit. So this would be my first thin layer, going in with the F2 olive shade. Now I only use a little bit of this. It's a little bit dark, but it helps to like add the olive in for me. I just like to dot this on. It doesn't dry too quickly. And then I love this foundation with a sponge. I'm just going to blot that in. Since we already have those color correctors on and those primers, really just looking to even out the skin tone here. Another good tip would be to start your foundation actually on the perimeter of your face if you don't get cakey there. I've heard the tip before that you start on the center because that's where you need the most coverage. But for me, that's where I get the most cakey. So I like to leave the least amount of product for that center part of the face. So I'm not sure if you catch how I apply that foundation, but I didn't put any really in that area. I put it like on the bridge of my nose, so that's a little trick too. And then this is the point where I would suggest sort of sitting back and just evaluating what specific areas you do want more coverage instead of just going in with more product everywhere. You want to be really intentional about where you're putting it. So I'm gonna go back in with my F2 olive shade actually. I would probably stick with this coverage most of the time. I do have just dermatitis going on around my chin again, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of added coverage there. And the Chantecaille base really does add such a pretty glow that's coming through this foundation without adding that weight or cakiness. I used to always struggle having more combo skin, like I want glowy skin, but I also need some oil controlling properties, and it just needs to be thin and wear well and not get cakey, and this combo has been so good to me. It was so fun helping you who signed up for my personalized makeup picks. Hi, if you're watching. Literally inspired this video. If you have any other makeup problems or you just want some products specifically tailored to you, I do have personalized makeup picks. Click the link below to get your own. If you're struggling with your makeup and you just want like that boost of confidence, I will pick the right makeup for you. It's been super fun, so thank you for that. And there is still spots available, by the way. They have been limited. There's still spots available. I'm also still doing personalized videos for the first 5 signups, so there's still a spot for that. Make sure to sign up relatively quickly if you're interested in that. Next up, for the under eyes, we did already sort of put in that work to prevent creasing with the priming products that we use. Let's talk about concealer formulas. I have 2 here. First is my Ride or Die Tried and True Haus Labs concealer. This is just the most crease resistant on me. It's a little bit more of like a medium consistency, and I like to go in with my fingers to use this. It's just a go-to. I do also really like the Revlon Glimmer Brightening Concealer. This one's a little bit more emollient, slightly more crease. It's not totally as crease resistant as the Haus Labs one. It does crease a little bit on my under eyes, so if you just don't have as much issues with creasing, you can handle slightly thicker concealer, maybe like the Kosas concealer. The consistency of this actually reminds me of it. I do actually want to use this one today though. I love the shade. This is 125, I think, which is like pretty dang like fair olive shade. And you also want to start with a small amount under your eyes. I kind of just again went in with what I know works for me, and then I like to use my sponge for the under eyes all the time. I've never had luck with a brush, and I'm just going to dab that in. This is a really brightening formula. I really like the shade and tone of this, and we do already have that corrector on, so we don't need a ton of coverage. If you're used to having really full coverage, sometimes it's also just one of those trust the process kinds of things of like, oh, my skin still looks a little bit uneven. There's more products that we're gonna add, and in the end it's gonna come together, so don't fret too much about it. My next tip, which is one of my favorites, is I do this with concealer, but also the areas of my face that get cakey. Before I'm setting anything, I actually should have done my contour first, but I like to blend this in with my fingers. Sides of the nose, I feel like we all get cakey there. It just like is a little crease for makeup to ball up into. Smile lines, that's a big crease point for me, and just around the chin, like just any area you notice that makeup is bunching up, your finger will sort of press the makeup into the skin. Also picks up any extra product, so it's not just like sitting there ready to get cakey. This is another good point to just sort of sit back and see if you do want to add anything. For me, I do just want a touch more concealer right in the darkest part of my eye though. I'm not going to put it everywhere. And this layer I'm going to apply with my fingers. Now let's talk about contours and how that might be playing into making your makeup cakey. If you're doing your base and you're focusing a lot on highlighting and contouring, usually it's just a lot of product going onto the skin. There's foundations, concealers. I would say just really simplify, especially for an everyday look. Also using liquid products specifically because they are the thinnest formulas. Get cakey looking the least. These and powders would be my recommendations. If you're using a lot of creams and you feel like your makeup is looking cakey, maybe try switching to liquids or doing powders. Creams can sort of ball up on each other, look cakey, break apart because they have oils in them, and just there's a lot that goes into making that cream formula like spreadable, if you know what I'm saying. So especially in combinations with these thinner water-based formulas, I like to use thin products to go on top of them. So two of my favorites, the e.l.f. Halo Glow Beauty Wand Contour. This is very thin, doesn't have a lot of pigment. It's like the perfect fair skin cool tone shade. And then they also have this, which is a little bit thicker. So if you just want something a little bit more pigmented, a little bit more coverage almost, the e.l.f. Bronzer and Contour in Fair is also a good one. Let's go ahead. I'll swatch the e.l.f. Halo Glow for you in case you have not seen the swatch. This one is so thin. It's such a good shade. Literally does not feel like anything. And then this is the camo version, which is a lot more pigmented and a lot more creamy. There's the shade difference there. I'm actually going to start with the e.l.f. Beauty Wand. I really like this one for the sides of the nose. I like to apply it and then sort of smooth it on to make sure there's not a ton of product on there. And then I honestly just like to use the same sponge just to blend everything in. Contour beard going on. We're gonna blend this all out. This literally melts into the skin. It works so well. It's really a great natural looking contour if you're like, my contour never looks good. This is such a beginner friendly one. I also think it's important to mention that if you have dry skin on your face, that's not cakiness, that's dry skin. It's not gonna go away when you put makeup on it. So you do wanna make sure you're exfoliated, but if you do have any dry skin like I do right now, it's gonna look like dry skin, you know what I'm saying, until it does get exfoliated. So that's why the skincare prep and just all that stuff is just really important. And I am using these products under powder, by the way. I have not set anything yet. You don't want to put these over powder. That's probably just going to create cakiness. So make sure you're doing any sort of liquids before you do your powders. Sort of within that same category, you can stick with thinner types of blushes. We talk about a few of my favorites. The KVD Mod Con, this is the Glowlita 10 blush. I actually really love the Mod Con Contour as well. I can never say that. The Mod Con Contour in the lightest cool tone shade. That's a light gel contour. That would be awesome as well. I should have grabbed it honestly because it's a gel. It's literally the lightest weight product. So this is the sort of a gel blush version. This is such a fun, that was way too much product. Whoops. Such a fun texture for blush. I feel like so many companies are coming out with cream blushes, stick blushes, but this is like a gel liquid. It's so fun. That was so much product. Let me wipe off a little bit so you can see how it would actually apply on the cheek. Gives the prettiest like wash of cool toned purple. Such a gorgeous shade. Something with more pigment that's also still liquid though. The Flower Beauty Ultralight Liquid Blush. This is the shade Cheeky. This has the little sponge tip applicator. And this one definitely pulls like a little bit more neutral rosy on me. It has more of that reddish pink tone versus the KVD one. Also, the Daniel Sandler Watercolor Liquid Cheek Colors. These are super thin because they're liquid. This is the shade Golden Glow. This I sort of use like a bronzer blush hybrid kind of product. You can see how thin it is on my hand there. And then when you blend it out, it kind of like it disappears into essentially nothing on the skin. It's super lightweight, but it still has that color to it. So good for just super lightweight feel. I think I'm gonna go in with the KVD Mod Con liquid blush. So to apply this, another good tip, use your sponge as well. I like to sort of squeeze it so it's round, and then I pick up the product on that side of the sponge, make sure that it's nice and even on there, and then go in, pat it into the skin. Patting motions, really crucial for preventing the makeup from like picking up. Sometimes brushes, it can just pick up the makeup underneath and create that cakiness that we're not looking for. So I really like this tip of just using a sponge for almost everything. This is such a pretty glowy blush, but it really doesn't look like anything on the skin. Love it. Now we can go ahead and set in our base makeup that we have on. For powders, I want to mention two here. They're very thin, they're very smoothing, they don't add any weight to makeup. Powders I find can be a very huge culprit for making makeup cakey. They just fuse in with your foundation and then create this thickness that is like that cakiness or separating that you're seeing as your oils, natural skin oils, sort of break through your makeup. So powder is still really important to set to prevent that, but it's sort of like, what's the word? Double-edged sword. So two of my favorites, the Well People Loose Super Powder Brightening Powder. This is truly translucent. It's really smoothing and beautiful looking on the skin. Honorable mention, the RMS Uncover Up powder. That's super thin. It's basically silica. That can be a little bit drying though. I find these two aren't as drying as that one. The Florasis, these are their gorgeous like color correcting powders, the Peach Blossom ones. They actually finally came out with these. I've been talking about them for a little bit and they are launched on their site now. I like the peach one, I like the green one, I like the lavender. All of the shades are really great and not too pigmented for fair skin. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my Florasis peach powder today. Comes with a puff, but we will be using a slightly different one. So I do really like puffs for powder. It presses it into the skin. Before we do that though, I'm gonna go back in that same trick I did earlier just to make sure everything is smoothed out. Also, when you're doing your under eyes, looking up sort of stretches that under eye skin a little bit so you're able to get up in there. And I do this right before I set so it doesn't have time to resettle. So I'm going to take this puff, it's actually the Kosas puff, and I like to get it on the puff, get off the excess, and then I just go ahead and press this in. I start with my under eyes and then I also like to press into the sides of the nose, and then from there bringing down into the smile lines. This is sort of just like the trifecta of where I really want my makeup set in. I also like how this has that slight peachiness to it because it does brighten a little bit. Just these little changes like using a color corrector, using a slightly peach powder, they can really build up when you're like stacking them right, and you can use less like coverage in your makeup because you're getting all those little helping hands. And then I'm taking the Well People powder just on a big, this is a stippling brush, just to set in the rest of my makeup with a thin layer. I focus more powder on those areas that I know are more crease prone, more oily, and then the rest of the face, we're just gonna very lightly set that down. Next is a really fun tip. If you have fair skin, you're looking to highlight your skin, but don't wanna wear like a ton of brightening concealer. For me, that's such like a problem point, right? The more product I put on, the worse it looks. So this is a really good little trick that I came up with. So this is the One Size Stage White Powder Foundation, which is a pure white foundation. Now applying this with a fan brush, which will apply it very, very lightly, is sort of going to act as like a matte highlighter, right? So I'm going to put it in the areas where I do want to lift the face and add some brightness. Also adds a tiny bit of coverage. So like I mentioned, we're like stacking all these little products for a good outcome later on. That's why I said trust the process, you know? So I'm just adding this in those little highlight areas, and this fan brush is so helpful because it will just apply it very, very lightly. And then you just end up with this sort of like pretty lifted effect without having to add on a bunch of product. And if your skin is deeper, you don't need to use the white one. You could just get a lighter shade of foundation, powder foundation, any powder foundation you have that maybe is a little bit too light. Using the same method, it'll work the same. So I want to talk about some more cheek products in powder form in case you don't want to do liquids or you want just both options. Well People Super Powder Bronzing Powder. I've been loving this. I actually have a cooler tone shade of this I want to try, but this is the golden hour shade. I don't find that it's too orange. Baked formulas are usually a lot thinner consistency wise than non-baked formulas in my opinion. They feel a lot thinner on the skin. They're usually not as pigmented. I feel like they just sit a lot better on my skin type. So I like to use this with a little angled brush, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of bronziness. We do already have that contour on. This is gonna add a little bit of a warmth. And I never find that this like ends up looking cakey because it's so thin, but sometimes with matte bronzers especially, or just like heavier formulas, they can definitely add weight to your makeup. Same concept would go with blush as well. I like the RMS blushes. These are also like not a traditional powder formula. They're like a gel powder. So they're super thin and sort of have this just like beautiful quality to them that's really smoothing on the skin. I'm gonna use Bermuda Rose, and I do have that RMS discount code, by the way, so you have to pay full price for these guys. I'm just using a tiny, not that small of a brush, but it's a round ColourPop F20. I'm just gonna layer this on top of the other blush we have on. Not necessary, but I want to demonstrate all the products for you. And this is gonna blend into that like white powder foundation too, and just, it looks so pretty. Same concept would also apply to highlighters here. I'm gonna use my Laura Mercier Baked Highlighter. This is the Highlight 01. Love this. I feel like this is underrated. Do they still have this? I hope so. But it's just a super thin, very natural sort of glowy highlight, and it just sits so beautifully on the skin. It has a really small shimmer particle in it, which is important for not enhancing texture. If you're using a like really metallic highlight, it can definitely add like a textured look. And then setting sprays can definitely lend a helping hand in preventing makeup cakiness. If you have more normal to dry skin, or you don't want something that's like a mattifying spray, you want something to add a little bit of glow to balance your skin, the Milk Hydro Grip Set and Refresh Spray is really nice. Also, if you feel like your makeup is getting cakey, say like halfway through the day and you need to touch up, this is a really great, like it rehydrates everything and can sort of be like a lifesaver in that sense. But it's a really good one to set with. Make sure you shake it. If you want something to control oil, the Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray. This is a classic. It actually does have like those ingredients to really lock in and control oils. It also has like some temperature control thing. It's actually a setting spray that does stuff for oily skin. Usually if you have oily skin, like these types of ones probably aren't going to do much for you. But since I do have like more normal, my skin's combo, but it's kind of drier at the moment, I'm going to use a little bit of the Milk Hydro Spray. There is a smooth, cake-free, flawless base that wears all day and is also really comfortable to wear. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe if you found this enjoyable so you don't miss my next video. I'm going to go ahead and pop another one of my videos on the screen here so you don't have to leave quite yet, and we can keep hanging out. I will see you over there. Bye.